Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about recent important news out their companies. With us today, I'm happy to have Grant Johnson. He's CEO of Esports Entertainment Group. The company trades on the OTCQB under the stock symbol GMBL, Gamble, GMBL. Now, for those of you who are new to the company, that's going to be a lot of you, the company is capitalizing on the massive unstoppable esports industry. And I say that, pay attention. If you don't know about esports, you're going to learn about it now. You better learn about it, because this is the biggest paradigm shift in the history of sports. Esports Entertainment Group, licensed online gambling company with a specific focus on wagering in the esports space. The company is led by a team of professionals from the online gambling, video game, and esports industries, with offices around the world. Just last week, the company announced the news that it launched Vi.gg, the world's safest, most secure, and transparent esports wagering platform in the industry. Here to talk about this, Grant, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, George. Good to be back on agoracom.com.
Hey, let's talk about, before we get into the launch, for people at home, what is esports? Because a lot of people don't believe it. And how big is this going to be?
Effectively, just to be simple, it's the professionalization of video game play. As for how big it's going to be, currently the forecast put the industry at just over 350 million in their fan base. The biggest group in that is millennials. 50% of the millennials are choosing to watch esports over traditional sports. And to get some numbers in there, the last year, the purse for the championship that was Dota that was held in Seattle was 26 million, which is more than double the purse for the US Open tennis or golf.
So combined US Open tennis and golf didn't even purse of the esports industry.
Exactly. That's how huge it is. How high will it get? How high is up? I mean, the growth is tens of millions increase year upon year upon year with no slowdown.
Now, the math kind of speaks for itself. 50% of all millennials are choosing esports over traditional sports. So is it safe to say that esports has a built-in monster growth audience for a decade to come at least?
Clearly. In terms of where will it be in 2020, some of the forecasts are putting well over 400 million and still heading north. The growth figures have not started to level off yet. It's all up.
So it's hard for people to imagine that people from around the world are watching esports teams play and compete the way you and I would watch the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Dallas Cowboys in the NHL and the NFL. But here's even harder for me to wrap my mind around, and for a lot of people, are esports audiences actually betting on the outcomes of these competitions?
Definitely. An esport fan, there's really not a lot of difference between an esport fan and a traditional sport fan. They follow their favorite players, they follow their favorite teams, and just like traditional sports, they like to bet and on the success of those events and players.
We know that sports betting is a monster industry. I don't know the exact numbers, but we know it's huge. You've even seen the launch of things like DraftKings and FanDuel. So obviously it's getting even deeper. It's getting bigger, not smaller. How big do you think esports wagering is right now?
Well, to get the hard numbers today, it's very difficult because most of the operators are unlicensed or they're private companies. We do know that a couple of years ago, a private operator was shut down and run an illegal wagering site. the amount of transactions were in the billions on that site. We do know that there are sites that have taken 8 million wagers on one single site.
Unbelievable.
So we can say that it's definitely there. It's growing. The experts predict that the esports industry, in terms of betting handle, will rival the sports betting industry in about 5 years, and they're forecasting that business to be around $20 billion online.
Okay, so you said something interesting there, just backtracking a bit, that you talked about you got some of the data came from unlicensed, unregulated esports wagering platforms that were forced to shut down.
Yes.
How big, so is that your differentiator? How important is it to the esports industry that you're fully licensed, that you're a public company, that you report to the SEC? How important are those as advantages, and why are they advantages?
Well, we heard directly from the esports community that these were definite factors that they were interested in. The transparency of a public company was a huge factor. They know who they're dealing with. They're not dealing with some disreputable individuals. They know that they've got government oversight. They know there's gaming commissions. These are major credibility issues that don't exist with any of our competitors. None of the competitors in the gambling sector, in the esports gambling sector, are public. There's a lot of operators that don't have licenses. We have both. Not only that, but the fact that because we run a bet exchange model, we're not competing against our customers. They're competing against each other. We're just creating a safe, secure environment under which they can bet against each other. So we're winner agnostic. And
what's the response been like, that you've actually gotten from the esports industry of putting all that together? What has that meant for you in terms of attracting, for example, affiliates to help you grow your business?
Well, last year was our first exposure to the marketplace, so to speak. We attended the Gamescom show in Cologne, Germany, and we had streamers and bloggers and pro players and team owners walking into the booth to sign up to be affiliates of ours, because they said they had a chance to go see who we were, that we were credible, we were transparent. And that kept coming up time and time again: credibility, transparency, oversight. So I would say, based on that experience firsthand with the community, all the feedback has been consistently about those topics.
Let's talk about your business model. And you touched on this in a second, but I want to dive a little deeper into it. Is the typical model out there in the world is a sports book where me, George, wants to place a bet on the Dallas Cowboys. I guess I go to an online bookie, or I'm in Vegas, and I'm effectively playing against the house. So even though I'm betting with them and I'm your customer, they're playing against me. You went away from that model, and you've gone to a player versus player, PvP model. Why did you go that way? What are the advantages?
Again, a lot of this came from research we did in the marketplace itself. The reason we went with that model, there's a couple of reasons. Business-wise, when you're betting against the customer, you're in the opposite position. You take risk in that transaction. As an operator, by not taking a position in the player versus player model, we create the environment where we take a percentage from the win. We don't have any exposure. So for our investors, we've eliminated the exposure we have.
So you can't get a monster loss weekend. Like, for example, we're in the middle of March Madness, and we've seen some unbelievable
huge upsets
where someone's taken a bath out there of epic proportions. Can that happen to you as a small cap and shut you down?
It cannot happen. We don't have that exposure. The other element is for the players, for the fans, the customers. When you're in a sportsbook situation, you give the sportsbook your money, they give you the odds, and then they bet against you. It's just always been that way. Everybody accepts it. But that's kind of a bizarre model if you really think about it.
I get to tell you what the differential is going to be, and you make the bet. It's kind of stacked in my favor.
Yes, and I hold your money in the meantime. In our case, we don't take a position against the fans. We take a small piece on every win versus taking potentially a larger piece when we went into the sports book model. But for us, the winner's always going to be a player. It's always going to be one of the fans that win. We just make sure that everybody's in there. They're allowed to be there. They're legal. They've been, they're from a jurisdiction where they're allowed to play. And so everybody knows that it's a fair, you're not going to get a more fair set of circumstances than that.
Yeah, I like it. Personally, I like that. But I like the fact that you're also eliminating all the risk. Because in effect, you're like a rake in poker, right? Where me and 6 of my buddies are playing poker. We're all playing against each other. The pot is ours. I'm either winning huge sums of money or I'm losing huge sums of money. But the casino is consistently taking their percentage rake off of every pot. And that's the way you work. So if it works for them, I got to say it's a great model for you.
Yeah, I'd have to say that, major operators like PokerStars certainly did all right with that type of a model.
All right, and that's a great example. God willing, that for your shareholders, that's what you're going to be. I want to play devil's advocate here for a second, though, because I have to, which is anytime a small company goes after a mass market, all right, I'm George's widget company. I want to sell widgets to everybody on the planet, and it could make me $1 billion. Mm-hmm. Sounds great, but the difficulty with that is, how do I go out and acquire customers? It's very expensive. I got to buy TV time. I got to hire salespeople. I've got to lag. I've got to buy inventory, and it becomes very, very expensive, and very few people can attain it. So how are you going to avoid that trap to make sure that you're not just gushing money and not knowing if you're going to be able to acquire customers?
Yeah, traditional marketing. Well, this is a very non-traditional industry, of course. I mean, the big brands are in there, Ford and all the other consumer products, they're all advertising on the sites. But because we've got a bit of a background in the business, and all our research has advised us and shown us that the best way to go is with affiliate marketing. This is how the online gambling industry and the online sportsbook industry built itself. The affiliates, the traditional affiliates, run large news sites, community sites, and they partner up with operators and they direct traffic. We have several of those relations already in place. But the phenomenon with esports is the pro players themselves, between YouTube and Twitch and all the big streaming sites, streamers and bloggers and players and writers have followers of their own, tens of thousands, in some cases tens of millions. And we have been forming relationships with those affiliates to partner with them and sharing our revenue for them directing traffic to us. And as I said last year, Gamescom was our coming out. We weren't even launched. The site wasn't even launched. We just had a demonstration site. At that time, pre-launched, 60 people signed up to be affiliates. So they were walking into the booth. They tracked us down at the show. They came to sign up just because we were offering something that's not being offered in the esports industry. So we feel pretty confident that initially that model is going to be very successful for us. At some point in time, we will hit the saturation point with the affiliates, or it'll start to ebb off a little bit, and we will do some traditional marketing, but that's not in the foreseeable future.
Well, before I ask you where the saturation point is, the question I got to ask you is, I'm assuming that your transparency, your security, your licensing, regulation, all that was a big draw for these affiliates and streamers, traditional affiliates and streaming affiliates. As a result, do you project, not hope, but do you project that you're going to bring in a lot more affiliates? And where is that saturation point? How many affiliates do you think you can bring into the company over the next couple of years, let's say?
Well, our projections are certainly in the high hundreds of how many affiliates and how many eyeballs, but in the tens of millions of eyeballs would follow those affiliates. The saturation point, right now the growth curve is so steep in the industry. It's going up by 30, 40, 50 million year upon year. And there's new celebrities, new streamers, new centers of influence that I couldn't say when the saturation point is going to be reached. It'll be years from now, that's for sure.
And maybe never, if you think about it that way, maybe never, because if it keeps growing and growing and growing the way esports is growing, you may never, the market's going to grow faster than you're able to bring affiliates on, but that's an amazing problem to have.
Look at it this way. And I was like yourself, I was in traditional businesses. If you were launching a product from a standstill, you had to be able to acquire 5 to 10% of a market. You had to have something so unique you're going to get that to really hit. In this market, 350 million. If we get 1/3 of 1%, we'll have over 1 million active users on the site. The numbers we would be generating at that point in time would be astronomical. So it's,
And I'd say that, well, that's just a big picture number, but the fact of the matter is we all watch Poker Stars and all these guys grow from these little online gambling sites to major public corporations listed in the UK. So I'm hopeful. Like, listen, am I dreaming here to say that esports wagering is going to follow the same path as traditional sports wagering? It's got it, right?
I would think so. I was involved, as you know, with one of the very first sites that ever took a bet online. And at that time, there was only 100 million users in the world. And that's gone from a zero industry to almost 20 billion in that period in time. And the rate of change is radically accelerated from back then.
Let's switch over to mainstream a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people watching today are, because I talk to people, so it's got to be I talk to our members, and it's got to be the same for people who are actually watching this right now, which is they just can't believe that this industry of esports exists, that people are watching people play video game tournaments, video game competitions, betting on it, cheering for it, fan clubs, tens of millions of people. That part is a blow away. Has this headed into the mainstream? What has happened in esports where you can tell investors at home that they're not going to be alone because mainstream is starting to invest in this space as well?
It's absolutely gone mainstream. Last year was sort of the breakout year for esports. For those of your investors who are looking, they may have seen something on cable TV because there's now esports broadcasts on regular TV.
Yeah.
You've got the NFL investing heavily in esports franchises. You've got the NBA investing heavily. You've got FIFA teams investing heavily. In fact, this fall, the NBA is launching their own esport league, which is probably the first of the mainstream groups that will do it, but it'll be closely followed by the NFL and FIFA.
So are you talking about the digital Raptors will be playing the digital Cavaliers, and the digital Celtics will be playing the digital Lakers in these great rivalries, but it's going to be done online?
Effectively, yes.
Okay, that's unbelievable. I got to tell you, that's phenomenal. So that tells me that investors now are going to be getting in just before. I mean, the mainstream big guys are investing, but the mainstream investors won't really be finding this out, but they will be as NBA launches, NFL launches. I think FIFA, I've heard, has launched some pretty big tournaments already. So they're already launching things as well, no?
Oh yeah, no. FIFA is very much involved. The Paris Football Club is investing in franchise as we speak. I mean, this development is taking place global. The rate of change is incredible. But as I say, 2017 was the breakout year for this. It's all gone mainstream. The smart money's in.
The Olympics just passed, the Winter Olympics. There's news about esports and the Olympics. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I can say for certain that the IOC has been investigating this for a while. As a matter of fact, our newest director, Alex Lim, who is the former Secretary General of the Esports Federation based in Seoul, Korea, which is where esports all started. He is now on our board of directors, and Alex has personally told me he was involved with the conversations with the IOC about bringing esports into the Olympics. It's still under discussion as far as Japan Olympics are concerned, but the Paris Olympics, they're looking to have it as a medal sport.
A full medal sport or demonstration sport for Paris?
Paris looks like a full medal sport. But if we think about the Olympics as an entertainment vehicle, which is really what it is, what other activity could you add that potentially brings you 350 million viewers?
Like that.
Like that.
Yeah, and I got to admit, I've seen the numbers for the Olympics. Viewership has continued to decrease. You got to figure kids today aren't tuning in to watch pistol shooting equestrian, archery. Not that there's anything wrong with those things, and none of us are taking a shot at those, but the fact of the matter is, if they're 50% of millennials are abandoning traditional sports, you know, how many of them are ever going to go to pistol shooting, equestrian, and archery? So I think the Olympics needs to freshen its events or potentially become obscure.
If it wants to stay relevant, it definitely does. Yes.
Last thing I want to talk about is the team, because you brought up Alex Lim just a second ago. I've always said, look, CEOs like you, your job, in fact, it's in your DNA, is you're supposed to be optimistic about your company and that the future looks bright and things are great. So I always look for in Agoracom third-party credibility. And the addition of Alex Lim to your board of directors last week, I think was pretty, 2 weeks ago, was a pretty big announcement, because you said it, but I'm going to read it here. He was from 2010 until just recently, he was the Secretary General of the International Esports Federation in South Korea. He was responsible for relations with 47 national federations, international sports authorities, global partners, and organizing and operating the World Championship. How big is Alex, relatively speaking, and what does it say about your company that you were able to bring on someone like Alex Lim to join the board of directors?
Well, I think it speaks volumes. What's most important in that whole piece of the, when talking about Alex, is Alex reached out to me and asked to join. So I didn't, he wasn't recruited or headhunted. And it's safe to say he knows who's who in the business. He had lots of doors open for him, lots of people trying to seduce him to come to come work with them. And he asked to come join our board of directors. I think that speaks volumes. We have an international team as it is. We've got members of our team that are in the States, in Sweden, in England, Warsaw, Malta, in the Caribbean, Canada, of course. So it really increased our bench strength. But to your point about third-party credibility, Alex could have gone anywhere. He came here.
And I don't think there's a stronger point we can leave this interview off at as far as questions goes. But I want to leave last word to you. I'm going to presume that with the launch, that means all systems are go, and you're going to have a lot more news to release in 2018 and beyond. What should shareholders and potential investors be looking forward to in 2018 out of Esports Entertainment Group?
Well, certainly the full rollout of the Bet Exchange, all our affiliates, the affiliate platform will be live in April. We'll be adding additional languages to service a broader client base. Hot on the heels of our Bet Exchange, we are going to be launching our skill platform, which will allow people to compete in non-gambling skill-based tournaments, which will open up the American market for us, which I think is definitely of interest to a lot of your investors. A lot of our investors are in the States, but they can't participate in the gaming because it's illegal in the States. The skill play will be legal globally. As you know, we've also have designs on launching an esports coliseum where we'll be hosting events. So that news, all that news is going to be coming out here in the very near future.
All right, Grant, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the launch. We're looking forward to what Esports Entertainment Group is going to be doing in 2018. From the sounds of it, you've got the team, you've got the business model, and you've got the trust of the esports industry. So good luck going forward, because we're all behind you.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Thanks, George.
You've been watching Grant Johnson, CEO of Esports Entertainment Group. The company trades on the OTCQB under the stock symbol GMBL. That's gamble without the vowels at the end of the day. If you want to know more, and I'm telling you, not just because the company is a client, but because this is the biggest paradigm shift I've ever seen in my life. Get to Agoracom, go to the company's hub, read the information, the high profile information you need in the profile section, get in there and read all the articles and all the third party information that we're posting, and then start collaborating with the company, post your questions, get your answers, tell your friends. This is one of the most exciting spaces, right up there with artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. Esports is a game changer in the next 5 years. The NFL, the NBA, the NHL, FIFA, they're already on track. Don't wait to get behind them and get in front of them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.